Hey, hey, hey. I am live in the Johnny Cooper Global Group, and I'm just about to go live in Johnny X Marketing as well. Once I sort this phone out, I am singularly unprepared for this. Never mind. Here we are. And hi, Steve. Glad you're watching, mate. I'm actually going to invite Franco Di Mori to join us because let me just click his face. So I'm going to add Franco. Franco should be here. Yeah, come on, Adam. Watch it, watch it, watch it, watch it, watch it. I'm going to share this into the group actually while we're just waiting for Franco to join us, which I'm sure he will. I have just invited him and the
We're
text should
here.
allow him. Wow!
I think.
Franco!
I think
Franco,
I'm here.
Franco Spanko, you definitely are.
Oh, I've got to
Without,
rotate this for some reason.
without a doubt.
Right, we're in. We're in.
Here's Franco. Yeah, I'm going to share that into the group. Do you want to share it into your group? Do you know how to do it? If you can, I think you can share it off your. I don't know if you can share it off your phone. You might have
Yeah,
to
because
go
I'm
to the
I'm on the
desktop
phone
to
at the
see.
moment, so
Yes, I just shared it on off my desktop, even though I'm on the phone,
right.
obviously. But never mind. Do what you can. You're
Yeah.
kind of off the side. Can you get a little bit more in the middle of the screen?
Let's have a look.
You're off to one side.
I'm a bit left field,
As ever, mate. As ever.
as ever. Let's have a look. Oh, don't you
It's
just
just
love this?
where you're positioned. Stop messing with your phone. Just move
If I
a bit.
move. Oh, that's better. Why didn't
Here
I
you
work
are.
that
You
out?
see.
I'm here.
Now, as you lovely people will realise, Franco De Mori has a very large head. It's actually approximately twice the height of mine. But you were born like that, weren't you?
Yes, it's an affliction I've had to carry for the whole of my life. It's why whenever I used to ride motorcycles, it was always I go to the counter and say, right, can I have goldfish bowl size, please? Not extra large, it's beyond that.
Oh, geez. Well, this is going to be one of those Friday live shows. This is the Expert Story Show for Friday, the 19th of July. I can say that definitely because tomorrow's the 20th, and it's our summer party here in Sutton Coldfield. And it is probably going to buck it down. But we're not bothered because we can all stay inside and have a good time, can't we? So if any of you are coming to that party, don't worry, please come anyway, even if the weather's going to be rubbish. It's all good. So yes, Northern Powerhouse, you are. So anybody talking to you would realise that you're actually from the north.
Aye.
But that's not where from you originated, is it? You have a
No.
very, very interesting lineage. Tell us about
Yeah.
that. Where were you born?
So it's interesting, Johnny, because I think I said to you earlier, I said the most exotic sounding name with the worst accent. But I was born in the Seychelles originally. A few too many years than I'd care to remember. But I've grown up somehow, ended up growing up in north of England near Carlisle.
But there's something else going on here, isn't there? Because Di Mori isn't a Seychellian name, is it?
Well, actually, it's funny because it sounds like an Italian name, but I've got a lot of French ancestry in my
Okay,
family background, and it's actually an old French Cathar. It's an old French Cathar name. So, because the
okay.
Seychelles was originally colonized by the French in whenever it was, 16 or 1700s,
Yeah.
as an important trade route in that direction. Yeah, so and still there's still a very strong French influence even to this day, even though it was a British colony for about 100 years or so. They had a scrap with the French and lost in the late 1800s, I think it was. And then the
Mm,
Seychelles itself gained independence in 76, I think, which was the year before my mum and I came to the UK. But
Okay.
there's still a very, very strong French influence in the country. I think the church services, not that I ever go to church, but the church services are still delivered in French even to this day.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. It's somewhere I've never been. Obviously, kind of know where it is. I could spot it on a map.
Mm.
But yeah, have you been back?
Yeah, I mean, we came over here when I was 5, and then the first time I went back, I was about, so it was quite a big gap, was when I was about 22 or 23.
Mm,
And then I've been back a couple of times again since then. Once, unfortunately, for my grandmother's funeral on my mum's side.
all right.
And then the next time was it's quite a while ago, nearly 10 years ago now. So I've been back only 3 times. But if you walk down Hounslow in West London, it's like being in the Seychelles because that's where everybody seems to congregate in London.
Yeah. Well, certainly not up north. So yours is a path less travelled from up until now, at least.
Yeah,
And what you're doing is a bit different from what most people are doing around you. So,
yeah.
do you want to just open up a bit on your superpower? What is it you actually do?
Yeah, well, it's a great question, that Johnny, because it's you can start off on a diatribe that lasts forever. But I was thinking
Please
about this
don't.
just before. I won't. Otherwise, you'll slap me again. Um, for me, it's helping people to create clarity and focus, become the eye of the storm in the most overwhelming and chaotic situations, so that they can
Hmm.
make really informed, powerful decisions and be at their best no matter what's going on in the outside world. If I was to distill it down into its core essence, it's that.
Yeah. Well, you know what I'm like with vagueness. Use the P word in that. I help
P?
people. Um,
Yes, indeed.
what kind of people?
Yeah. So at the moment, specifically, I'm helping overwhelmed tech entrepreneurs
Hmm.
to make more sales in less time with less effort.
Yeah.
And not only that, but with nothing new to learn so that they can be at their best every day, which is really good fun. Very challenging, but very good fun.
Yeah. What's your connection in the sort of tech world? Have you run a tech startup yourself? You've been involved with one?
Yeah, yeah, sure. So I had a very interesting career path. I always wanted to be an airline pilot. Then, for various reasons, ended up doing a degree in building surveying, and then promptly decided the best thing to do with that was to get a job in IT sales.
Yes.
Um, so, as you do. So I went from trainee salesperson to team leader to sales manager, and then eventually went on to start up my own IT company
Mm,
with a friend of mine who was a really, really good Microsoft engineer. So being through all the ups and downs, backwards and forwards, lefts and rights, success, failure,
mm.
glory, and everything in between that goes with that.
All right. So you've got some creds in the tech world with tech entrepreneurs. What do you find is the main thing that holds them back from success?
Generally speaking, Johnny, I find it's one of two things. It's an actual it's an actual inability to to sell, believe it or not, because I find that a lot of the people
Mm,
that I work with are really great at the idea side of it, but then when it comes to actually translating that into business through the door, it then
yeah,
seems to break down a bit. And for me, it's very much a specific on the mindset behind selling as well, because there's loads and loads of good sales training out there, and I come across tech entrepreneurs who have actually got great sales skills, but it's the sort of the human operating system side of it
yeah,
that really breaks down for them. And one of the most apparent knock-on effects of that is that as they've gone from idea to startup to MV, minimal viable product, to actually getting something out there that looks like it could be successful and profitable. A part of that mindset challenge, if you like, is the knock-on effect it has in terms of relationship building with not just outside in terms of suppliers and clients, but also internally as well. I often see a big breakdown in internal relationships as these
Yeah.
small enterprises start to expand.
Yeah, I've seen that too. I mean, the most obvious external influence on that seems to be running out of money. You know,
Yeah,
when if they've raised a bit of seed funding to get the idea off the ground, they always spend it quicker than they thought they would,
yeah,
and they always earn it back more slowly than they thought they would. Um, so I think you're knocking at an open door there. You know, these people need help. They need some support and focus, don't they?
yeah,
So I'm sure you
absolutely.
can do it. How did you learn to do this then? Where have your how were your skills developed in coaching?
It's it's an interesting one, that, Johnny, because it's one of those things where after my sort of airline pilot dream got shattered when I was a teenager, about 14, 15, which is another very long story that we won't go
But you
into.
know what? I wanted to do that, right? You can tell how long ago this is, right? You think you're old. Um, when I was at school, we got some blurb from some kind of careers organization that was promoting the idea of becoming an airline pilot. And the airline captains could earn £9,000 a year back then. Right?
Wow.
I thought that seems like a shitload of money because my dad had told me he was earning like 1,200 or something. I thought that's a lot of money, that is. I actually went to see British Airways. No, I didn't. I started applying, and there was a big tick box about your eyesight, and I was wearing glasses at school. I couldn't get past the first hurdle.
Uh,
So Johnny's ended up here today talking to you
Indeed.
rather than
And I'm glad that you
rather than
have. I'm
something
glad that
else
your eyes
altogether.
don't work. I'm happy
Yeah,
about that.
I can't see a bleeding thing. I've no idea who you are.
Yeah, it's not me
I'm
really. It's just a bot. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
So
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 so so so so you building your skills when you realised you couldn't be an airline pilot.
yeah.
Um,
So then I for various reasons, that didn't happen, and then I sort of went through this whole tumultuous, what on earth am I going to do? Went through my IT career, through the other side of that, sold my share in the IT business, started a property trading company, and sort of what mid-ish 30s had this enormous meltdown. "Oh, what am I going to do in my life? Oh."
that's the
And
1930s.
yeah, the 1930s, that Grecian 2000s working well. And what I realised, Johnny, was I can remember exactly the place where I was driving quite close to Nottingham on the M1,
Mm.
near the A38 turnoff, and I'd had this sort of huge meltdown about I didn't know what I was going to do with my life, and then it just hit me like a right hook off Tyson that
Really?
actually I'd been coaching all my life because that was the thing that I really loved when I was a team leader. I mean, I loved the sales side of it, and I loved the tech, and obviously I loved the money. But the thing that
Mm.
really made me come alive was taking um, a raw recruit onto my team and just helping them to be absolutely great, to be a better salesperson than me, so that A, I could hit my team target a lot more easily. But it was more than anything, it was just the magic of seeing somebody come alive, and that I very much
Right.
had that kind of relationship with my younger brother and sister growing up as well.
Mm.
And and so really the foundational piece of all that has been doing it naturally anyway. And then once I realized that, then I looked at, tried all various different kinds of coaching methods and technologies and stuff, and then eventually landed on something that works really powerfully for me because it's simple and easy and gets massive results.
And what's that?
So I discovered or sort of tripped over, I went down the NLP route slightly for a while and
Yeah.
did all the usual personal development type stuff with The Secret and Bob Proctor and so on and so on. And it was okay, but I still felt like there was something missing, like a bit like, I always use the metaphor of being thirsty and having a cup of seawater to try and get rid of your thirst. I mean, it just makes you more thirsty afterwards. And there was a guy who was big on NLP, a guy called Jamie Smart, and he made a shift over to. I've been following him for a little while,
Mm.
and he made a shift over into something completely different, known as the three principles. And I just happened to open an email from him in Marbella. I've never read his emails before. And this thing just, again, it was just one of those huge epiphany moments, because it's basically an understanding of what creates our experience in the first place, where it's
Yes.
coming from, and understanding that we perceive everything via the quality of our state of mind in any given moment.
Yeah. Well, I'm with you on that because, as you probably know, I worked with Jamie Smart for quite some time, and
I didn't know that, actually.
but you don't know. Yeah, I'm
No.
a Glasswing alumnus, and I've been I've been hanging around with Jamie for a bit, and I've got all his books as well. I find that the three principles are clearly just that. You know, they are fundamental principles, fundamental truths about the way the world really works. And you know, it helped me to correct my outside-in misunderstanding,
Yeah.
and make me a more sort of sanguine and balanced person. And I feel as if sometimes it is just running in the background. It's almost like an operating system.
Yeah.
It's not something I pitch. I don't, you know, encourage anybody else to take on the three principles themselves, but I think it helps me in putting over my truths, if you like, you know, my training, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I completely agree with that, Johnny, because I you know, I did that classic mistake as new coaches do, or not necessarily new coaches, but when you discover something new
Yeah.
that
Well,
completely
you 3P
transforms.
coaches. Yeah.
Yeah. You then just become an evangelist, and unfortunately, what happens is you suddenly find that people don't really want to spend any time with you, and if they do get stuck with you, they want to get as far away from you as possible, if possible, because
Yeah.
of course, you know, you're
Well,
just
the trouble with that is it's just a tool, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
not an outcome. You know, the stupid obvious analogy that I often quote is, if your washing machine's bust and you call the washing machine repair guy and he shows up with a tool bag and tips it all out on the floor and goes, look at this hammer. You know, look at this amazing monkey wrench. This is 150 quid. This the best you can buy. Oh, and by the way, have you seen this screwdriver? It's electric and it's 9 volts. You go, just fix my washing machine. Fix my washing. That's what you're here for. And that's the trouble, I think, that a lot of 3Ps practitioners get themselves into. They go out to the world going 3Ps this, 3Ps that, and everybody goes, I'm not interested.
I don't care. I just want you to fix my
care.
problem. Help me fix my problem. That's
Exactly,
it.
yeah.
What's
And
it? What's in? Sorry.
Yeah, if that's the tool that you use to fix it, then fine. Do you know what? It's the difference between what people want and what they need, isn't it? Sell them what they want and then deliver what they need. You know?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, my favourite expression for that is pick people up at their bus stop, and then once they get on the bus, you can go wherever the hell you want.
You can hijack them. So
yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah. This is about the evil bus driver then, isn't it?
Yeah, and you know, the interesting thing about that maybe that there's a comedy sketch in there somewhere, I'm sure. But you know, Johnny, the interesting thing about that is that, you know, we just talking about how people don't really care how you do it. They just want you to be able to help them to do it in a way that just you know, wows them and makes them feel amazing. But what I find is really interesting, that I speak to clients who have been through a coaching program with me, and then they get to the other side. It's like, you've got to share the principles with this guy or that lady or this team or that team. I went, how? Just tell them about this, tell them about that. And I'm like, isn't it funny? They're doing exactly the same thing as I first did. And you know, my point to them always is,
it's the obvious thing to do, isn't it?
Think back 6 months ago to where we were. If I'd said that to you 6 months ago, what would you have done? You would have said, you know, next. Thank you. It would have been a good idea at best and an annoyance at worst. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It's just it's a program that runs in the background.
Monkey wrench.
You know? Yeah, it's a monkey wrench that they don't need to see, hear, or think about, unless they want to, of course.
Yeah, you know, conversely, you don't need to keep it hidden. Of course, when you're in a relationship with the client and they're engaged with you, there's going to be some fascination over the tools you're using at that point. But
yeah, absolutely.
It's not a marketing thing. Well, one thing I've noticed actually with people coming out of that 3Ps training is that they are almost universally struggling to find any clients.
I was one of those people.
Yeah. But no more, Franco. No more, are
No
you?
more, no more indeed.
I'm going to ask you a couple of quick questions just to wrap up because we're going to finish up just after the half hour.
Sure.
It's been enlightening so far. I'm glad we've opened up that little can of worms because I find that fascinating.
Yeah.
What are you worst at? We ought to know that, didn't we? What are you terrible at?
Washing dishes, I hate it. Um, I hate it.
That's not a bad thing.
And
Think
clean.
of something more important that you're bad at. Something you'd like to get better at.
I think for me, you know, I absolutely love the delivery of what I do. I love the transformation in the clients. I love the selling side of it. One of the things that I'm not so good at is actually being a business person. So really being a good business person in terms of understanding the building blocks of a really good solid business and how that works. That's definitely been a weak spot for
That's
me.
surprising because you've had businesses before, haven't you?
Yeah, I have, but I think it was one of the reasons I got through that very successfully at some points was just pure grit and determination to actually do it. And you know, I shared recently somewhere that you know there was one time that we myself and my business partner didn't pay each other for 4 or 5 months. We had very understanding partners. But it was just sheer grit and determination because I think I've never been so great on the details side of things. Details have never really been my thing, and I think that's the one area, particularly when it comes to being commercially astute,
Yes.
where that's an area of mine that could do with quite a bit of work at the moment.
Yeah. All right. And I think it comes when you have a steady flow of clients in a coaching business. You learn all the other stuff
Yeah,
when it's necessary to learn it. An example is, you know, I see coaches setting up a limited company at day one, getting an accountant, yeah, building a website. Um, well, hang on, you haven't actually worked out what it is you're doing yet, or who you do it for, and
yeah,
you know, what your offer is, and that kind of thing. I think there's a lot of stuff in business which can come late, can wait, yeah,
yeah.
until you're getting crazy busy. Interesting, yeah, interesting insight. I don't think you're that bad at it. I think you're just talking yourself down there, potentially, because I forced you into a corner and said, tell me what you're bad at. You're probably not bad at that much, really, are you?
No,
You're just a
yeah.
northern powerhouse, aren't you?
A Northern Mankey who's a bit of a power. So I'm trying to be I'm trying to be modest for the sake for the, you know, for the sake of this
It's
interview.
difficult, isn't it? It is difficult. I have that problem too. So look, final question. Final question for you, Franco De Mori. Teach us something we don't know in the next 2 minutes.
Wow. What would you like to know?
It's your choice. It's your question, mate. The ball's
Oh,
in your court.
the ball is in my court. Teach you something you don't know. Gosh, you've really, for once, I'm actually stuck for words. I'm caught me off guard with that one.
I cannot believe it, man.
I know.
Can't
It's
believe it.
who'd have thought that was possible. The
Teach
thing
us
that
one
pops
thing we
into my
don't know.
mind,
Something that you know to be true that we
yeah,
don't know
the
yet.
thing that pops into my mind is it's never ever the circumstances that create our experience, even though it looks like it is. It's always our thinking about the circumstances that creates our experience. And that's really important when we're angry and pissed off or upset or whatever in particular, because when you realize that actually it's not the situation, because sometimes you can feel kind of all right about a situation, sometimes you can feel explosive, sometimes you can feel deeply sad and everything in between.
Yeah.
I think it's so important to keep remembering. It's something we all know anyway, but we keep forgetting it all the time. So I'm actually teaching you something you already know, but you've forgotten, because I do it all the time too. Is
Yeah.
that, you know, especially when you're feeling angry, upset, frustrated, whatever it might be, at a situation in the outside world, stop and think for a minute. It's never, ever the circumstances. It's your thinking about those circumstances that create that experience. And it's funny, just that understanding alone takes 50%, if not more, of the self-imposed pressure straight away off.
When was the last time you had to remind yourself of that and alter your experience?
About 15 minutes ago in the car driving up here. Because again, somebody had cut in front of me. So driving's a great one for this because it happens
really
all the time. And we forget all the time, particularly because, we're in our little cocoon of being in the car.
Yeah.
And a guy pulled across me because he'd obviously been waiting for a while. And of course, my immediate reaction was, he's this, he's that. And I'm like, I hear this voice in my head going, dude, you're doing that thing. No, just let me be angry, will you? I'm like, so I'm actually having an argument with myself about something that had happened. And then, 10 seconds later, I'm kind of laughing at myself. But it happens all the time because it's an invisible thing, Johnny. It's not something that's tangible. We can actually see with our eyes. It's happening sort of in here and in our hearts as well. And we forget that. And that's what makes it so important to keep remembering that, because we're dealing with something that's completely invisible, but yet has such a huge impact on our personal well-being and therefore an impact on our success and our results.
Yeah. So that thinking, the three principles, if you embody them, it enables you to overcome diffuse the power, if you like, of those negative emotions, is it?
Yeah, and I think a point worth mentioning here, just as we wrap up, is that there are probably some people watching who may not be familiar with the principles, maybe thinking that what I'm saying is that you shouldn't be angry, or you shouldn't be upset, or you shouldn't be whatever. That's actually not true, because all those things are a part of the human experience. But it's actually just understanding that all that comes from in here. 3-year-olds, you've got a young son, 3-year-olds are the best example of that. They'll be more angry than you and I will be in the next 10 years, probably, when they have a tantrum. But 20 seconds later, a minute later, Dad can have a sandwich, can have the iPad, what's on telly. Forgotten about. Why? Because they haven't learned to attach to things, because they inherently understand that they just experience what comes in and goes out: anger, happiness, joy, sadness, and everything in between.
I've experienced people being angry for years.
Yeah.
I
think to some degree we all have been at various points. I know I certainly was, but it's interesting, Johnny. I've shared openly quite a few times that just over a couple of years ago, I had the most traumatic day of my whole life, and this understanding allowed me to navigate that gracefully, with ease, and without actually having to do anything. So that I felt awful. I felt all the terrible things that I felt, and then when the system was ready, it just did its thing, and I sort of popped out the other end and like, whoo, what's for breakfast? What do we do next? And the interesting thing about that is that everybody thought that I was kidding myself, because you can't possibly feel that okay in such a short amount of time. Well, two things. Firstly, yes, I can. And secondly, it wasn't actually up to me to decide how long or how short it took for me to be okay again. The only thing I had any control over was understanding that actually I was just experiencing some stuff, and it was free to come and it was free to go if I just left it alone.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, I don't think we can improve on that as an amen. So let's leave it right there. Thanks for watching, Lisa. Thanks for all your generous commenting. Thanks for watching, Adam and Randall and Joseph and the other Adam.
Thank you, everyone.
Brilliant, Franco.
Always a pleasure, Johnny. Always a pleasure. Thank you, everyone.
We'll catch up with you guys very, very soon. It's Friday today, so it's basically no work Friday. I let myself off the hook there because this doesn't feel like work, talking to lovely folks like Franco. So chill out, guys. Let's just breathe. Enjoy the rest of the day. It's going to be a beautiful weekend. Come to my party. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.
Cheers.